Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. I want to say hi to Rodney, who got here like 4 seconds ago, making me
That's
sweat.
30 seconds. Come on now.
Okay, all right, that's true. I exaggerated by 24 seconds. Hope everybody's doing good and staying on top of things. Things are changing big time, right? Big news. And of course, we're going to start off where everybody asked for, and I'm going to keep Rodney on the screen here. You need to see this. Everybody starts with rates. Okay, could be tough day. According to Mortgage Daily News, the interest rate could be going up a little bit, but that's from not a bad place. So we're all right. But does this look about right to you?
It does. I will say the I'm getting a lot of long range forecasting for rates to improve.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you know nobody ever knows, but they got a
Well,
50% chance of being right when they say that. But
yeah, no, and I'm not starting in a negative place, but the fact of the matter is that's what people start asking about originally. So when they're tuning in, what's the rate? I get it.
yeah,
I get it. You do anything fun or exciting over the weekend? Anything you need to tell us about?
you know, it was a kind of a chill weekend for me. My I didn't have either one of my boys. They were both one playing golf and one doing something else. So it was I got to play golf by myself.
Well, look
So
at that. And you, when you go home, you get to do that in the basement as well.
yes, yes. I got a junior, a 15-year-old that we spend a lot of time on his golf game. Yeah, we spend a couple hours a night hitting balls. And I got a simulator inside, so we
I just think that's awesome.
he's coming around.
I've never been to your house before. I got to come over and see that thing one time. Show off my massive stroke.
Come on.
Got a good one. Hey, so one of the things that caught my attention, that what this live stream is all about is just sort of staying on top of stuff. And of course, hey Angie, hey, how are you? Good to see your name. Good morning. It is afternoon for us, young lady. Angie says hi there. You can see that, right, Rodney?
Yeah. Hey,
Okay.
Angie.
Hey, good, good. But what I wanted to start with is, one of the questions I get when I'm talking to people is, remember forbearance and how
Hmm.
when the pandemic started and everybody, since they couldn't go to work, the economy, the big concern was the economy was going to fall apart. The housing market it's just going to be bad. And one of the first things they did, no, maybe not first, but early on, they did the forbearance program, which I'm sure you're familiar with that. And the whole idea was to keep people safe and in their homes during this unknown period of time known as COVID. Right, we're in the middle of that. Did you have did you have much experience of that when we were going through
Yes,
that, Rodney, as a lender?
I had a tremendous amount actually, and it was mostly because we were dealing with it. If you remember when COVID, it was still a big refinance time. Uh,
Right.
so the uh, so we were seeing the forbearances and having to pay them off and having to deal with all that stuff as they were refinancing. They were, because consumers, I actually had one attorney that I think their servicer put them into forbearance without even asking about it.
Hmm.
So I'm sure it happened to a lot of people. It's where they just forego your payments and add them to the end or whatever.
Well, the
But
process is if you feel like you're getting in trouble, you have to ask for that first, right? Is that right?
yes, but I think a lot of servicers was just putting people in it as fast as they could put people in it.
Right.
Um, and it was a little bit of a pain. A lot of the people are like, well, they'd have to basically catch it up. They'd have to come in with three payments or pay three payments and,
Right.
and catch it up and pay back that stuff. So yeah, it was a good for some, but people who didn't need it, who used it and then tried to refinance, it caused them a little bit of a problem, really.
Yeah, well, the reason for the question or the article, I thought this was really kind of interesting, was if you remember back in the days of the crash, and when the market was really having trouble, the main problem of that was foreclosures. That was what it was. I mean, all of a sudden you had millions of homes come on the market and they were selling for nothing. And I was thinking about this the other day, years ago, when I would go out in the midst of that and I would do a listing presentation and tell somebody, I say, Rodney, you've got a beautiful home. You're only going to lose about $15,000 when you sell. So, I mean, compared to your neighbor, that's good news. Those were
Yeah, right.
those were tough conversations. And I mean, we were hitting it. We were selling probably close to, with the sales back in the day, 700 homes a year. I mean, so we had a really good feel for the market and everything. And there was very few streets, very, very few, if any, neighborhoods that we didn't go in and have foreclosures hanging around. They were everywhere. Anyway, the reason for this question is the forbearance program, based on keeping people safe, helped mitigate that or minimize the risk of that happening again. Does that make sense?
I think it worked. I think it worked very well this time. It, and I think it worked because of the house values.
Right.
And bear in mind now, I have never seen in the 20 plus years. This is the first time I've ever seen forbearance be this widespread, be like just offered through a commercial. The federal government mandated it, right? So it's
Right.
I've never seen such a widespread forbearance. I've seen people do it, but not at this scale. But yeah, I think a lot of people, it helped tremendous amount, and what it didn't cause is a bunch of foreclosures, is like you're saying. Since the property values went up, those, if you missed a year of house payments, you're still probably not upside down in your house.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that's what's going to save our foreclosures, right? Once they get upside down, people are going to walk away from houses,
Yeah.
and that's just hard to do in this market with a qualified down payment and the appreciation we've experienced over the last few years.
And that's what they're saying over this last couple of years. What were we talking about? Was it last week or was it you that I was talking to about it? That the tappable equity grew to like $2.8 trillion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of breathing room for people. I mean,
Exactly. Yes, they should never. When whoever gets this much equity in their house, it's yeah. As long as they're not crazy with their finances, they shouldn't have house problems for the rest of their life if that's the one they stay in.
yeah. And it says here at the end of this, I thought this was kind of interesting that the loans that upon exiting the forbearance, nearly 37% were all paid in full. 45% were worked out or repayment plans, and only 18% were still in trouble, and that was from through June 22.
Let's see here. What when they say trouble, what
Yeah,
did
I wonder
they?
what that means.
Um,
We'll have to look that up because I got that as like 1 out of 5 was all that was left.
yeah, that's no loss mitigation plan. So these people still may be in their houses. They just haven't figured out a way how they're paying that back.
Got it. Got it. That's what in trouble means.
Uh, it mean yeah, the status of the loan's not great, but it may be not great because they haven't been paid back their forbearance money,
Right.
and hopefully if they're still caught up on their payments, that would be what I would be concerned about.
Right. And reminds me, the derogatory comments, are those allowed now after that?
What's that?
Remember, the derogatory comments was after you go through something like this, that's usually a note on your credit. Is that illegal now?
No, no.
No,
A company can put on there that you entered forbearance or whatever. Um, it will say it just depends on how good the people reporting are because they, it's just an extra person that has to report that stuff.
right.
So
Right.
all of
Well,
it don't get reported like it should, but
right. Well, the good news is, I guess the bottom line it worked, you
it
know?
did. I think forbearance definitely helped our you know our homeowners keep their houses while they couldn't make it during COVID.
Yeah, and so we got through that. So the next thing I was looking at when we go from that to this was just a thought. And if you've got anything that you want to chat about, of course, Rodney, bring it up. Um, but this is slow down. What slow down? Here's 10 cities where the home prices are still soaring, and this one, you and I'd be familiar with this. This was surprising. It says here, let's take a look at the top 10 cities where sellers are still ruling the roost for now anyway. First one, Miami. That makes total sense, right, to me. The next one
Yeah.
is Memphis. Can you imagine?
No,
Memphis?
I can't imagine that at all.
This is on Realtor.com.
No, I'd like to see that number, unless they're talking about Memphis in the sense that and it's probably its surrounding counties,
I think
or
what
it's
they're
one of
talking
those.
about is, I think what they're talking about here is the percentage of growth because
Right.
Memphis is nowhere near the top. I mean, it's,
But when
I,
you come back out of a bad spot, I guess, and you go up 5 houses, their percentage may be up, but I don't think that that's a great city or whatever it's saying that you you know what I'm saying. I'd
yeah.
almost have I'd almost have to see why they're calling that thinking that
Oops, sorry.
Memphis.
I don't know why that's happening. No idea why that happened.
We're not pros.
Must be keyed in there someplace. We are going to mute that in about a second. Um, did you see the
Yeah,
question, Rodney?
we'll have to. What's that now? Um, do I think it's too early to tell about foreclosures since adjustable rates haven't had time to kick in? Well, the it is it's I don't think we're going to see a wave of foreclosures unless economy and jobs get bad. Okay. And first, let me just say that I'm a regular mortgage professional, has been doing this 20 years, but I'm not an economist. But everything that drives, in my opinion, a big factor is jobs, right? And how satisfied people are with their jobs. When people are satisfied with their jobs, they tend mortgages and foreclosures um, are less abundant. So the new the arms of today, they're not going to cause foreclosures. They are qualified loans. It's those arms that we put that the B and C companies put in, and did like 80% first mortgage, 20% second mortgage, and a 2-year arm that after 2 years that thing would go to double its percentage. And since you didn't have any down payment and then you get to a terrible rate, that's what caused those foreclosures and the property values going backwards. So the rates today, the people are qualified just like a 30-year fix. So they're not going to be a source of foreclosures. But I think we'll always have, less than 4 or 5% foreclosures or something like that. So we'll always have some, but I don't anticipate arms contributing to that.
Right. And the next comment she made was, and this is a good one, maybe more people walking away from the houses they were about to purchase. In terms of new construction, that's absolutely happening. People are
Yeah, a
walking
couple
away.
of maybe last week or the week before, we talked about that on here. There's more backing out of contracts than we've seen in pre-pandemic levels.
Right.
People were actually going under contract and then backing out. So she's on the money right there. Yes.
Yeah, and that's specific with new construction, because under a regular purchase agreement, you have to have specific reasons to get out, and you depending on the builder's contract as well. But it's a little, it's a different deal. There's purchase for existing that if you bail, there could be penalties depending on what the situation is. But new construction, and that's why there was an article, I should try to find that, of builders. I don't want to say panicking, that would be way too strong, but they're concerned. I mean, remember back in the day when they used to have spec homes? Remember those?
Oh yeah.
Back when I was in the business in the 80s, there was tons of spec homes, and they sort of stopped doing that. And now they started overbuilding with all the heat in the market, and now people are bailing, and now they actually have spec homes again, which for a builder, the carrying cost, I suppose those are construction loans, right? Is that the way that works?
Yeah, when the builders are carrying those construction loans, and when people walk away from contracts, right, those construction loans start having birthdays, and that's the problem. The builders
Yeah.
don't want to carry that interest forever. Um, but I've seen a lot of not new, existing homes lose their contracts, and it's the first time that buyers are getting out of them due to
Mm-hmm.
inspections and things like that are getting out of that are canceling the contracts, not just buyer's remorse. Um, so it's the first time, like, oh, well, I'm not doing those repairs. Well, buyers are starting to take back a little bit of their power.
Yeah, yeah. And then going and probably getting a better house, you know?
Yeah. Or
That's
yeah, I mean, they're going to somewhere else. They're just not dealing with the person that was selling it 6 months ago is like, hey, you get
take it or leave
nothing.
it, pal.
Right.
And Angie's asking about promise money. I don't know. Do you know what promise money is? That's the same as earnest money, Angie?
Um,
If the music starts playing, I don't know why that is.
I don't know. Yeah, I've never heard of promise money.
I really don't know what that is. Good music, but geez.
Yeah, is that you playing that? Is that your actual
It's my
phone there?
recording, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't have all those toys in the background without actually being able to play them. Uh, we don't have any promise money. I am. I'm trying to Google that, see what that even is. I don't know what that is. It's what do you mean by that, Angie?
Okay. You are talking about, Rodney can talk about that. I can talk about that. She's talking about the difference between deposits. For a lot of times, builders will have deposits versus earnest money for purchase and sale agreement. I'm sure that's what you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, you'll definitely want your advice from your agent on this one. We do see builders in our area ask for builder deposits, and they're outside of the constraints of the earnest money. So yes, that is an issue, because if I was building right now and I put up earnest money, well, everybody knows what earnest money is, and it's explained in the contract. But when they start throwing the builder deposit around, then I'm like, well, what is it, a builder deposit? And some of those it just varies on which builder it is. It could mean anything. So I would definitely, before I gave any money, know the parameters of what I'm protected for under that money. And that's why, your realtor is so valuable here, giving you that um, advice.
Yeah, well,
So,
back back in this last year or so, boy, the deposits were pretty severe with what builders were doing. I mean, that was deposit money that if you wanted a house, you're going to give them a deposit, and you weren't going to get that back. But in terms of a purchase and sale, that's just an earnest money thing, and all that does, well, I think it probably does is it puts a little bit of skin in the game for as the buyer, so the seller can feel like you're serious. But then it also holds your feet to the fire to make sure that the only time you get out is for a legitimate reason, because sometimes agents will try to do it without any earnest money at all. And when they bail, there's no risk. I mean, there's other than a flat out default,
Right.
But my view, what I teach about earnest money is for earnest money amount, keep it as low as possible. I'm not going to give a number because it doesn't matter, but keep it as low as possible. And the reason is really kind of practical. Sometimes people will think a high number in earnest money will help the seller feel like they're more serious. That's just not the truth. The fact of the matter is, if it's a lower amount and trouble comes, generally people won't go to court for a small amount of money. But if it's 25 grand or something significant, they're more than willing to go to court. So I'd like to be able to avoid that at all costs. And so I keep that earnest money low.
Well, yeah, and I'm just thinking as a consumer, if I'm going to go buy a house, and I put a contract in on it, I'm serious, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to give them 200,000 as earnest money just because just because the people have it, right? So
Yeah.
as a consumer, I'm not like that at all. I'm like, I'll give you, my seriousness should be rated on that offer I made you on the contract. That's the way I look at it, because yeah, the builder deposits or whatever. And like Angie was talking about, she said, I've seen other people and other real estate, like during that, our really busy time, people were saying, yeah, I mean, 100,000 or 50,000 and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm like, why? If it's going to end up in a loan anyways, somebody don't need 50,000 transferring hands.
Right.
For no reason,
Yeah.
just gives these people more chances to steal your money, with the wire frauds and everything else.
Absolutely. Angie's got it right. 1 to 5. I'm reticent to use a number, but that's a good one. Until you get up into the multi-millions, that may not have much impact, but that 1 to 5 is just about right on that. And I would even be, now that we're talking about it, I would be suspect of a seller that would push too hard for super large earnest money dollars. I would wonder what their intent is.
Yeah, I mean, let's say that we're going around here and Andy, you're showing me a $2 million house. What is an appropriate amount for that? I mean, because if somebody's buying 2 million, you may even see anywhere from 400,000 to 1.2 million down or something. So that doesn't mean I need to give the seller 200,000. What would you recommend me? What would you advise me to do right there? Because I think 5 or 10,000 would be plenty on that. But am I off base with that, or?
Well, it's a great question, and the place that I start with that is I call the listing agent and I say, look, what's it going to take for the seller to be comfortable? And then I'll go from that and start slicing and dicing. Remember, my job, period, is protecting you from any negative consequences. We want to go in, look at the house. If it doesn't work out, we want to be able to leave clean, and that's fair. That's fair. And so that's actually the way I play it, instead of trying to guess, because some people will say, well, 100,000 is right. And others will say 10's good, and, I'm not going to assume that I can read their mind. So that's where I start, is by asking the listing agent, what the seller would be comfortable with. Not that I pay attention to that, but that gives me that
Yeah,
top.
that's a
Sometimes
good.
too.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's a great place to start. So you can tell your clients that, and then you could come up with your own number. I
Yeah,
mean,
and these days, what's been going on with listings, at least here in Tennessee, I don't know about any place else, but there's somebody started a while back thing called offer instructions, and it's just great. It's where you can go into what's called the media section for us in the MLS, and it gives you all of the details that you need to complete an offer and not have any hanging questions like what title company and who's the lender. All that stuff is in there, and sometimes they'll tell you in this particular case what they need for earnest money, what the seller's asking for is in earnest money, especially on these bigger, high price spread,
right.
So, but isn't that an interesting question? For me, the bottom line is everything's negotiable, and my job is to protect you to the max, least exposure, risk wise, and still get the job done. And if you don't like it, to be able to exit clean. That's it. I mean,
Yeah,
wow,
and when I say exit cleaner, I'm taking that as like
legit.
a failed home inspection or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that
And that's what
something's
clean
come
to
up.
me
Yeah,
means, that we've got to
right,
have, because there's sometimes people will say, well, I decided I don't like the house. Well, we have to have a reason, you know.
right.
We have to have a reason. If we've cleared contingencies, you've got yourself a house.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that, or risk the lawsuits. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Um, anyway, so here's one other thing I kind of wanted to touch base with you, Rodney, um, and Angie. It is so good to have you online with us. Thank you for that. Um, it's this right here. Bing. The housing market hits another first we haven't seen in 2 long years. What they're talking about here, and this is a signal, and I can't. I've gotten so into the finance stuff. I mean, like, I'm into it. I mean, tomorrow
mhm.
the Bureau of Labor Statistics comes out. You know what that means? CPI. We're going to know if it's a recession or not. Or maybe they're doing an adjustment tomorrow. Maybe that's the case. But I've gotten into that. So we're getting these signals on what's going to happen. Well, here's one of the little signals, and it says right here, another first for real estate recently is homes are taking longer to sell. And for us in the real estate market, that's called days on market. And the longer it takes for a property to sell, the tendency is that a seller's got to lower the price to entice buyers to come in. And what that means to the ultimate buyer is your chances of getting a negotiation deal goes way up. That's for buyers, that's an exciting thing.
Yes, it's finally where they can make look at something and make a decision and actually negotiate properly. Not just submit your best offer and
Yeah.
hope you ridiculously overpay for something.
Yeah. Um, ooh, that's a wow. Hey there. Did you see that? We haven't seen that question for a while. Did you see how long does it take? This is Angie. I'm going to add this. This is a pretty good question. Hang on. We're going to go this way. That's too big. Sorry. Hang on. I'm going to just take it off. The question is, I don't know why that text is so big. I've got some tweaking to do. How long does it take a bank-owned home to go through with a cash buyer? Boy, that takes you back 10 years.
It does. I will say, well, if it was my bank, I can speak to my bank. It could be sold within days. But I think what causes a lot of the holdups when is the whole foreclosure process.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's the
the,
question, really.
the neighbors see this house the second the people stop mowing the yard, right? And they're like, oh, that's, look at it, it's foreclosed on. But it may not actually be foreclosed on until, months down the road. But once a bank has it, they can sell it immediately. And they would want to. They're going to want to. Banks are not in the business of keeping properties up, have to mow yards and all that stuff. They'd sell it fast. Mine was a bank-owned property I bought about 10 years ago, and it was actually they had to wait. I actually waited on this bank because I liked this house, and they foreclosed on the owner. They foreclosed on his personal property first, and then foreclosed on the one I ended up buying. So because the way if they'd have done it in reverse order, they would have got less money.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have got all their money if. So a lot of just the circumstances. But if they've already foreclosed on the property, I'm betting that that bank. And as soon as they did, as soon as the bank foreclosed on it, I think I bought it within 10 days or something.
So it was
But
super
I
fast.
worked with it for 6 months.
Yeah. And I think that that's why that's such an important question that Angie is asking, because all of the conversations and all the blogs and comments and all of it that you see about the housing market crash and foreclosures and all the rest of it, it all leads to getting houses cheap and flipping them. I mean,
Hmm.
that's where it's all that's where it's all going, And man, I remember back in the day, and it's what 10 years ago, whatever, something like that. You'd see a house would be notified as pre-foreclosure, which I don't even know what that means. Is that they missed a 30-day payment or something, and then people would be climbing all over trying to buy it, and it was months down the road before it would ever be
Right. They could.
available.
Right. And you'll see it go to the courthouse steps. I mean, if you just pay attention and you'll see it go to the courthouse steps. It's got to go to the courthouse steps, and the bank has got to buy it back at foreclosure. So you could even show up on the courthouse steps and try to buy it if you wanted to. I mean,
Yeah, and a lot of times they buy it back themselves. I don't understand that practice
they're
necessarily,
just protecting their loan. Like the bank of mine. They were still owed money, and I wanted them to buy it because they had like a year of 2 years of back taxes and stuff like that.
right?
Some liens attached to it. So it wasn't good for me to buy it back. But the bank, as soon as they bought it back, I basically was buying it from them.
Right,
I just
right.
wanted them to take $20,000 worth of back taxes. I was like, I ain't paying. So
Yeah, let somebody else do that. And
right.
Angie, she asked another question, which is really good. How did we end up here? This is pretty cool. Um, the bank owned is unusual now in Tennessee. I'm not looking at the statistics, but I'm telling you, they are few and far between. I mean,
Right. There's
foreclosures,
yeah.
bank owned are like, you never see them. Where it used to be, I made back in from 2010 to 2013, I made the lion's share of my business by promoting foreclosure lists. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody ever bought them. I mean, who wants a foreclosure? Ultimately, not always, but that was the marketing was, free foreclosure list because there was so many of them. And now there's just, I don't want to say none because that would not be accurate, but there's very, very few, very few.
Yeah. I see.
Very
She has. Yeah. I don't see any bank owned properties. I don't even remember the last time we had one.
And if you did, they
You know,
would
we
truly be in desperate condition. I get notifications from HUD, the HUD home store
Mhm.
the national thing, and it'll send me stuff from all across the country, and the teardowns is what they are. Oh God. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I see what you're saying. Yeah, we have a good friend here that's kind of like her situation, Andy. He's a contractor and she's a realtor. So yeah, they you know Krista Jameson, Andy.
I
She's a
don't. I
she's
don't.
a good friend of Denise's, our operations manager, and that's exactly what they do. They're she's phenomenal at staging and all that stuff, and
Hmm.
he and obviously her real estate background can find them and buy them, and he works on them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they
I bet
do
the
the work.
margins are pretty tight these days.
They always have been. I mean, I remember about 50, several years ago, it was these people were trying to buy, only making, a few $1,000s on say a three or $400,000 purchase, and they're fixing it up and getting so skinny on it, it's only making like five, six, $7,000 on them. I'm like, that's a lot of risk for that little of a gain.
That's a ton of risk. I mean that's a ton. But golly, what man, I enjoyed this a lot. Well, we're looking for big changes to come down this week. At least, again, I'm guilty. I've gotten into the finance, and I'm not an economist, but now I get it. And these little changes can make huge difference down the road. And frankly, it makes it more interesting to talk about when you're. It's not like I'm really interested in interest rates. I mean, I am, but I'm interested now in the mechanics of what's going on. 10-year Treasury, MBS, and all that.
Hmm.
There's just investors trying to maximize their profits. That's it. You know,
Yes,
that's that's all it is. It's basic human self-interest that keeps this ball rolling, and it's pretty cool. So listen, I enjoyed that this week, and we'll see you again next Tuesday, Rodney.
sounds. I will be here. Good chatting with you, bud.
Okay, maybe more than 22 seconds ahead of time.
I'll get that. I'll be there a few minutes early.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Hey, thanks a lot, everybody. Angie, have a great day.
Good to
Talk
see
to
you,
you soon.
Andy.
Bye, you guys.